Echoes on Main Street. You ever notice how the scariest places aren't the dark forests or the haunted houses? It's the places you know, the places you pass every single day without a second thought. That's what happened to Claire. She wasn't anyone special, just a woman walking home from work the way she always did, past the row of shuttered shops on Main Street. You've seen streets like this, old neon signs half burnt out, mannequins frozen in dusty windows, the kind of silence that makes you hear your own heartbeat. Claire's flaw? She hated silence, couldn't stand it. Always left the TV on at home just so her apartment wouldn't feel empty. But that night, silence was all there was, or so she thought. The pavement glistened under the yellow haze of streetlights, still wet from a storm that had rolled through earlier. The gutters gurgled with runoff, and the air smelled like rust and wet leaves. Claire walked with her head down, clutching her bag tight, her heels making a soft tick-tick-tick against the sidewalk. She knew every crack in that concrete, every boarded window, every crooked lamppost that hummed louder than it should. And yet, something felt different. The silence wasn't empty tonight. It was listening. She could feel it, like the street itself was holding its breath, waiting. Her footsteps echoed, sharp and brittle against the brick storefronts. But here's the thing. Sometimes an echo doesn't come back the way you expect. Sometimes it doesn't come back at all. And on Main Street that night, Claire noticed it. Her footsteps weren't just echoing, they were answering. Would you like me to continue with the rising action next in the same style? Rising action. At first, it was just her footsteps, tap, 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 but then another rhythm, slightly off, like an echo that couldn't keep up. She stopped. The echo didn't. Now, you've probably done this, told yourself it's nothing. The wind, a drunk stumbling home, maybe your imagination. That's what Claire did. She shook it off, hugged her coat tighter, and kept walking. But the steps followed. And then something worse. The sound of her own breath came back to her. Except it wasn't hers anymore. It was deeper, slower. And it whispered, "Don't turn around." Her stomach flipped, heat rising behind her eyes. She wanted to look. God, she wanted to. But the command slid into her like a needle, sharp, paralyzing. She forced her legs to move faster. The street stretched longer than it ever had before. Shops blurred together, signs flickering as if the bulbs were choking on shadows. She tried calling out, "Hello? Who's there?" But her voice felt swallowed, devoured by the night. The echo answered back anyway, her voice twisted, mocking. "Who's there?" Claire broke into a jog. The reflection in the shop window caught her eye. She wasn't alone in it. For the barest flicker, she saw a second figure walking just half a step behind. Its head tilted, neck too long, body stretched thin like taffy in bad light. When she whipped around, the sidewalk was empty. Her chest burned, panic bubbling hot. She pulled out her phone. Dead. No glow, no bars. Just a black mirror staring back. Main Street forked ahead, left toward the safety of her apartment, right into the hollow dark where the old movie theater sat abandoned. Logic said left. Her body turned right, as though something tugged her by invisible strings. And with every step, the whispers grew clearer. Not one voice now, but many. Layered, overlapping. They all sounded like her. Repeating, over and over, "Don't turn around." Do you want me to drive us straight into the climax next, keeping the same spoken cinematic tension? Climax, her whole body froze. Because if you've ever been truly afraid, you know, your mind isn't the one in charge. It's your body, your bones. And her bones screamed, "Run." But the whisper grew louder. Every breath she took, it matched her, word for word. "Don't turn around. Don't turn around." Her pulse hammered in her ears. She wanted to scream, to spin around, to see what was there. But the voice crawled down her neck like ice water. And she believed it. She believed if she turned, something would be waiting. So she ran. Her heels clattered against the pavement, sharp, frantic, splintering the silence. The shops became a blur, shadows peeling away from walls, reaching for her like long fingers. The whispers surged, overlapping, echoing ahead of her now, inside her above. 1,000 Claires, all screaming the same command. Don't. Turn. Around. She stumbled past the old theater. Its boarded doors stood gaping, nailed planks warped and bent like crooked teeth. For one breathless second, she thought she saw movement inside. Rows of seats filled with silhouettes, all craning their heads toward her. Claire's throat closed. The voices pressed harder, a tide rising in her skull. Her vision swam. She had to choose. Keep running blind into the dark or obey the command, never looking back. But here's the thing about fear. It breaks rules. And something inside her, some final spark of defiance, snapped. She stopped. Her breath tore ragged from her chest. Her body shook. Every echo in the street went dead silent, as though the world itself was holding its breath with her. Slowly, against everything in her bones, Claire turned her head and saw herself. Not a reflection, not a shadow, her, standing 10 feet away, same coat, same hair hanging damp from the rain, same wide, terrified eyes. Only this version of Claire was smiling, a grin too wide, too knowing. The other Claire lifted a finger to her lips and whispered in a voice that shook the street, "Your turn. Would you like me to push into the falling action next, where the consequences of this confrontation unravel?" Falling action. Her heels clattered against the empty street. Storefronts blurred. She didn't dare look back, didn't dare breathe too loudly. She reached her apartment door with shaking hands, slammed it shut, locked it, chained it. Safe. She told herself that word over and over, safe. And in the silence, she laughed, half crazed with relief. Nothing followed her inside, except the laugh, her laugh. It came from the kitchen, from the dark just beyond the doorway, a sound too perfect, too familiar, bouncing back at her like a boomerang she never threw. Claire's chest seized. She grabbed the nearest thing, an umbrella from the stand, and crept forward. Each step felt like wading into a pond where the water kept getting deeper, colder. "Who's there?" she whispered. The voice answered in the exact same cadence. "Who's there?" The light above her flickered, a low buzz like a dying insect. For one horrifying instant, the kitchen doorway reflected her silhouette, but it wasn't synced. It was smiling when she wasn't, tilting its head when hers was still. She stumbled backward, hitting the wall so hard the picture frames rattled. Panic made her vision blur. Her body screamed to run again. But where? Out into the street where the shadows waited? Or stay here, in a home that suddenly wasn't hers anymore? Her phone, dead outside, buzzed to life in her pocket. The screen lit up with a single notification. Missed call, Claire. Her knees nearly gave out. The phone buzzed again, vibrating like it was alive, like it wanted to leap out of her hand. She dropped it. The glow spilled across the floor, and there, stretching out long and thin across the light, was a shadow, a woman's shadow, her shadow. But Claire wasn't moving. The sound of footsteps came from her living room, slow and deliberate, and with each step she felt the floorboards sink, as though the apartment were bending beneath the weight of two people when only one stood there. Her chest heaved. Her knuckles whitened on the umbrella. She thought she could hear words in the creak of the boards, a murmur beneath the noise. "Safe," the voice whispered from the dark. "Safe, safe, safe." But it didn't sound like comfort anymore. It sounded like a promise being broken. "Do you want me to take this straight into the denouement, tightening the suspense into a chilling closing beat?" Resolution from the dark corner of her living room, a whisper rose, louder now, right beside her ear. "Good girl." You listened, and Claire realized the echoes hadn't stayed outside. They'd come home with her. Her grip loosened on the umbrella. What good was it now, against something that wore her voice, her skin, her smile? She stared at the shadow still stretching across the glow of her phone, and for the first time, she didn't run, because maybe that was the trap all along, running. Turning, fighting. Every choice had only pulled her deeper into it. Claire lowered the umbrella, her hands trembling. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. The reply came instantly, soft as a lullaby, to be you. And with that, the light snapped out. Total blackness swallowed the room. But she could still see it, the other Claire, outlined in the dark, her teeth gleaming like polished bone. When the light flickered back on, the apartment looked the same. Neat, quiet, harmless. The phone lay still on the floor, screen dead again. And Claire, she was standing in the kitchen, smiling. Calm, almost peaceful. But if you'd known her before, if you'd ever heard the way she filled her silence with noise, you'd notice the difference right away. She didn't reach for the TV remote, didn't touch her phone. She stood in her apartment, perfectly still, listening. Outside on Main Street, the echoes started again. tap, tap, tap. A rhythm not quite hers anymore, bleeding out into the night for someone else to find. And if you ever walk that way, if you ever feel the silence pressing in, you'll know Claire's still there, waiting. If this story gripped you tonight, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps this channel grow and make sure more people find these stories. Subscribe for daily content because there's always another shadow waiting to be told. And share this with someone you think would dare walk down Main Street alone. Thanks for listening and for watching. There's another video recommended on your screen right now. Go check it out. I'll see you back here tomorrow. And remember, sometimes the echo isn't yours.